Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the second day of this gathering. Hope we had a good first day, and I really feel gratitude towards the nature who has been very generous and giving us rains so that the weather has become really pleasant. Otherwise, before coming, we were all thinking 35 degrees or 34 plus degrees and how hot it will be. But I think just a day before when we started to arrive, the rains have come. So, but also at the same time, as Catalina said, let us be very aware while walking, and because there are slippery places. So, after we discussed yesterday the fundamentals of Theosophy and also Theosophical Society, the objects and the mission statement included. Now, with that foundation that we have laid yesterday, we'll now take the next step and we'll take one by one those fundamentals and how what we are going to study in some way proves what we have studied yesterday. The oneness, the law of karma, the reincarnation, the septenary system in our solar system and beyond, and how is it as below so above, and all those things. As and when we go through our studies, we'll try to correlate, and this correlation is a very important aspect of our higher mind, because the whole of secret doctrine, that's why HPP has said the best way to teach secret doctrine, that you don't go from first page to last page, because that will get you all confused. So whatever subject you want, you have in mind, you go to that subject from the index and then you study that for that moment. And then next. And then when we are able to correlate what she has said in chapter 1 with something that she is now saying in the last chapter, that is what the purpose of secret doctrine. Because secret doctrine does not give us any statements like, this is the truth, this is the truth, this is the truth. It is meant to activate or inspire our buddhi, our intuition. And that is why we will find so many contradictory statements, or not contradictory, seemingly contradictory to our mind, but when viewed from our intuition, they are very much in harmony. Like the 6-9 example, I think all of you have, right?
369.
No, only 6-9. If I write a 6 here, for you it will be 9, but for me it is 6. And we may argue on that no, this is 6, you will say this is 9. But for a person who is looking from a higher point of view, he or she will know, this argument is useless. So that's what our higher consciousness does. It resolves all the conflicts that our concrete mind creates in our daily life. And this, what we are going to study now, is very, very occult and esoteric subject. Please don't ask the proof of it from me, whatever I have, but wherever there is a possibility, like yesterday, I will try to include some scientific proofs to the level that we have our modern science, and rest is up to everyone's intuition. You study more, research more, meditate more, and realize for yourself. But before we go into that, let us see the paradoxical thing that we had yesterday for contemplation. Anybody had any insight, any thought, or anything about this? By the way, this is a shloka from one of the Upanishads, Ishavasya Upanishads. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Just a quick thought. Imagine a woman who is becoming a mother. Mother is whole. She is giving birth to a child. which is whole. The whole has come out of the whole, but this is also whole, that is also whole. And what a beautiful example of that cosmic thing. Thank you. So, in our physical plane, that what the mind, I mean, in such a way, nature is giving us hints if we are aware enough to take those hints, just like embryology. I mean, through embryology, nature is telling us how we have evolved. Through this process, she's telling us this is possible, but we have to raise our consciousness. So let's move ahead. So today's subject is, we will try to find the answers to two fundamental questions which are very, very necessary for proper orientation. What do you think those questions may be? For proper orientation for an individual. Orientation, everybody is getting that? Okay, suppose somebody falls down, or suddenly then what does, and then you lift up the person and the person is unconscious, and then you become conscious. What does he or she says?
Where am I?
Who am I? Where am I? Okay, so maybe somebody has taken to some faraway places. So those are the two questions. Where am I and who am I? So once we are sure of the answers to those questions, then we know in which direction we want to go. Like, it happens to many people that if you are sleeping in your own house, even in the middle of the night you have to get up to go to the kitchen to get water, you can go with eyes closed, right? Because the body has formed a habit and you can go there. But suppose you go to some other place to attend some wedding or to meet some friend, and you are staying in another person's house, and you get up in the night and you bump into something, and then you say, oh, I'm not in my own house. Then we realize, oh, I am in somebody else's house. So then we come to know the where, who am I. Of course, it is so deeply ingrained in us that we know even when we sleep that who am I. So these are the two questions that we will try to find the answers in today's session. And who can give us the answers of this? Huh? Who has realized it already. And those who have realized it, they have given to us. And what form has their teachings taken?
Religion, philosophy, modern
Right?
science.
I mean, Buddha explained to us, and then those teachings became Buddhism. Jesus told his realization and it became Christianity. And in Hinduism, so many scriptures are there because all saints and rishis expressed their realization and it became a religion. Similarly, philosophy. Those philosophers, Ramana Maharshi, J. Krishnamurti and Ashtavakra, and all over the world, all those philosophers, they shared with us, so it became philosophy. Even in Indian culture, we have 6 schools of philosophy, and yoga is one of them. Sankhya, Yoga, Mimamsa, Vedanta, Uttara, Mimamsa, and all those things. So all these are not religion, they are philosophies. And very important friend there, modern science. So modern science is also telling us, where am I? Solar system and the earth, planet, and who am I? I'm this body. That's what modern science says. So what is the difference in between all these 3 avenues? Or at least first 2 and the third. The approach to finding out the answers.
First-hand experience. Levels.
Sorry?
First-hand experience.
First-hand experience. First-hand experience, yeah, modern science also, religion, philosophy also. But can we say that the fundamental difference between religion, philosophy and modern science is modern science approach outside, right? Modern science approach is outside, going out and out and out and trying to find out the truth. Religions and philosophies is something as those who are experienced or philosophers, they have found it by going within. So that is the fundamental difference in these two approaches. So modern science, most of us know what it tells us, but let us now go through religion and philosophy. Okay. Now, yesterday we were mentioning about 7. So whether it is Christianity, it has mentioned 7 heavens. Judaism mentions multiple heavens or levels of celestial realms. Islam, in Quran, it refers to the 7 heavens or skies, which are at different level or realms of existence. Zoroastrianism also concept of 7 heavens and divine beings. Hinduism, it's 7 lokas and the last, and that is also expressed in the Gayatri mantra. When the full Gayatri mantra, you must have heard in the puja when we did Om Bhu, Om Bhuva, Om Suva, Om Maha, Om Jana, Om Tapa, Om Satyam. So these 7 are actually implying all those 7 lokas, that the effect of the mantra should happen on all my 7 levels. Okay, please stay in ones. Okay. So, coming to Theosophy. Theosophy not only talks about these planes of consciousness, 7 planes of consciousness, but it talks about several planes of consciousness, major, minor, sub-minor, and there are like several layers of classification. But not only that, Theosophy tells us in the explanation of formation of those planes, in a very scientific, I would use the word based on what we have discussed yesterday. But scientific here means occultistic, in occult science based. That Theosophy, whatever we study, those our eminent Theosophists before, they researched whatever wisdom they had, they shared with us in the form of books. And so that's what we are going to study. At this point, I would like to also mention, since all of here are young Theosophists and you have a lot of time ahead and you will be reading a lot of theosophical literature, that you may come across some of the differences in literature in some of the points. What HPB has written, what Annie Besant or Leadbeater has written later, or Jeffrey Hodgson or A.E. Powell has written later. And this debate has been going on forever. That is some people become so closed mind that they say, no, I will only study HPB. I will not study Annie Besant or something. Some people say, no, we will study only Annie Besant, we will not do. But since we talked about open mind, so we should not have any such barrier in our mind, because for a couple of reasons. Because it happened earlier also that they thought what HPB has said and what Annie Besant has said, there was contradiction, but later on, from a higher level, everything resolved. So there is, maybe we will be arguing or making a prejudice based on our lower level of consciousness, but if you raise our level of consciousness, maybe that difference does not even exist. So here we are not for any debate, not for any argument, but basically to study and then contemplate and research more on those studies and take our understanding to higher level and see for ourselves. Maybe both are correct, right? It's not only 6 or 9, it's both. So if we have that attitude, then I think there is no problem in reading and comparing. That's why this correlation is very important. Now, what we are going to study, take it like a story. It's a story of, I would not say creation, normally it is called creation, but basically in Theosophy we say emanation, that it has come out. of the absolute beingness. So, what C.W. Leadbeater writes, that it is the beginning of the universe, if ever it had a beginning. Because in Sanskrit there is, or even in English, it is eternal. The word is eternal. It has no beginning, no end. So we cannot say it had a beginning, at some point, and then, because then it should have an end also. So what he's saying, if ever it had a beginning, it is beyond our understanding. Because of course it may be a much higher level of consciousness, and as of now, they can only research up to the solar system, not beyond that. So he's saying, at the earliest point of history that we can reach are the two great opposites of spirit and matter. And now understand, to get the idea of this, yesterday we discussed about absolute principle, and when it manifests, it becomes plus or minus, spirit or matter, right? Or life and form. They are already in existence. As far as any Besant or Leadbeater during their research can take their consciousness to the past, they could not go beyond that. That's what he's telling us. Okay, here. So right now everything is black, the pralaya, obscuration state. The three principles of matter are in perfect harmony. So what he's saying is this basically, that yesterday we talked about that first fundamental proposition, absolute consciousness, that is immutable, eternal, boundless and everything, and different names given to it in different religions. So from that, when the manifestation happens, after unknown number of stages, it comes down, and then it comes the level of universe, and then comes to our solar system. So what he is saying here is this, that at the earliest point of history they can reach where the two great opposites of spirit and matter, life and form, were already in full activity. And what he is saying, normally in today's world we say energy or force and matter. Energy and matter are two different things, but he is saying that we need to revisit that reality, that actually both of them are the two varieties of spirit itself. All the forces that have come out, whether electricity, magnetism or anything, have come out of the spirit. And the real matter or basis of everything, we think this is made up of matter, or elements are matter, but as we go today now in further, it's really astonishing to see that why is this world called illusion? We think this is matter, but let us see what the occult science says. And even the French mathematician he quotes, C.W. Leadbeater, and a theoretical physicist in 1906, he said, there is no matter, there is nothing but holes in the ether. Ether means the space, intergalactic space that we think is vacuum, is blank, is empty, but it's not. How? We will see. Because occult investigation shows this to be the correct view, and in that way explains what Oriental sacred books mean when they say that matter is an illusion. That's what Buddha's experience when he became a Buddha. He said everything is just vibration. There is, no matter in the sense that we think it is. And so, when he is saying that as far as he can go, only the spirit and matter existed, he is mentioning the second level, this level. Because there is absolute consciousness, then there is a level of unmanifested logos. Is everyone familiar and comfortable with the terminology? right? I think, yeah, since we are refreshing the fundamentals, so all these terminology are very fundamental in theosophical literature, but if any doubt, we can always discuss in some after session. So what he is saying that up till the unmanifest, manifest logos. Logos means, in Greek, it means word or sound, but it also means a deity, a very high being. So solar logos or cosmic logos, that means a deity, means a being which is the head of that system, like a principal of the school, like the headmaster of higher level or a vice chancellor of a university. So as the level is increasing, the eligibility and all those things are also increasing. So that is the level he is saying we could go, not beyond that. So that's what he will be sharing. So what he says, that at some point initially, whenever in the beginning, when there was all black, I mean nothing existed as from our point of view, the ultimate root matter existed as seen at our level and what scientists call the ether of space, and this has been described as koilon under the occult chemistry book. Now he is saying at that point what scientists call that space is empty, ether. So that is the name given by them in the book Occult Chemistry as koilon. And what is koilon? We'll come to know in a while. Because to every physical sense, if we see from our eyes, it is nothing. It appears empty, and yet in reality, this ether is far denser than anything we can imagine. And one Professor Reynolds also has even somehow, with theoretical physicist and something, he has even estimated the density of that material of 750,000 tons to square inch. So, and this substance is perceptible only to highly developed clairvoyant person. The people who have that capacity of clairvoyance of high level can only perceive this. And I think this is not something very miraculous or something. Even in the waves, electromagnetic waves, human beings can perceive only a very small spectrum, right? But there are some animals who can perceive more than humans. So they are more capable in that sense to perceive a wider range of waves. Same with our this sound waves. We can hear only a range, but the dogs or the bats or some other animals can perceive more. We cannot perceive infrared rays, ultraviolet rays, but the people or the creatures who have the capacity of clairvoyant, they can perceive this matter. So, and we must assume a time. Now we are coming to the story. Though we have no direct knowledge of this point, when this substance filled all space, right? So that matter, ultimate root matter, which they are calling koilon, is everywhere. And all the principles are in harmony, so there is no movement, nothing is happening at that time. What is koilon? Koilon is a Greek word which means hollow, and very appropriately, because since it seems hollow, empty, so that is the word that was given to them. And he is saying that in some esoteric and mystical traditions, koilon may be used metaphorically to refer to void or emptiness. And in Buddhism, we know the concept of shunyata or zero or emptiness, that everything has come from emptiness. Same thing, you take Nasatiya Sukta, what HPB quote in the beginning of Secret Doctrine, that there was nothing. basically implying emptiness. So all of what we are seeing has come out from emptiness, seemingly emptiness, and that's why they were given the name koilon. Koilon, since it fills what we are in the habit of calling empty space. And okay, that part we can skip. Also, he mentions in ancient occult treatise, however, we read of a colorless spiritual fluid which exists everywhere and forms the first foundation on which our solar system is built. We'll come later how now the scientists also are saying something similar. They already call it ether of space, but this is in some ancient occult treatise. And outside the solar system, this matter is in its pristine condition, purity, between the stars, in the intergalactic stars. But on our earth, since nothing is comparable to that matter, so we call it in our ignorance that it is empty space. But in reality, there is not one finger's breadth of vacuum or void space in this whole boundless universe. And from this mother substance, all the objective suns are said to have their substance. So basically, if there is an architect, so architect has a drawing of a building, and then there is all the bricks, cement and all the material. So now the building is going to be made. So that matter, what the architect needs to make that building is this koilon. But now comes the startling part of the investigation, and this is very important. We might expect matter to be a densification of this koilon. Very obvious, right? We are thinking the space is full of these koilon, these particles. So whatever is to be built will be different combinations of this, right? But that is not the case. Why? It is nothing of the kind. Matter is not koilon, but the absence of koilon. And at first sight, matter and space appear to have changed places, and emptiness has become solidity, solidity has become emptiness. Does anyone have any thoughts on this statement? That matter and space has exchanged their place. Yes. Here, it's like there is particles, which we say empty space, but then there is matter, which is not these particles, but, can I tell?
Having vibration.
It is, okay, we all know balloon, right? When we fill up the air in balloon, can we compare it with this? The air in balloon is actually the real matter, and the balloon itself is the hollow space. Can we try to, I know it's very difficult, but we'll come to it slowly, that the space, okay, very good example. Has anyone done swimming? Huh? Underwater swimming?
Underwater.
When we are underwater and you exhale, what happens?
Bubbles.
That bubble is what? The koilon is water, and that bubble is the oxygen or whatever, or air coming out, right? So that becomes the matter for our universe, not the water particles, but those bubbles. That is that way, that is a very good example. There is water all around, right? So that is the koilon, ocean of koilon everywhere. But whose breath is that? In swimming, it is your and my breath. But whose breath is going to make space in koilon? Yeah, whatever we call God. That is why in scriptures, in secret doctrine, in HPB, what she has written, that it is called the breath. The great movement is called the breath for a particular reason. And that breath contains the life of the Logos. Because even our breath has oxygen also. I mean, when we do resuscitation of another person, we exhale, right? If somebody is unconscious, we do CPR, anyone? So we give oxygen, but so what is coming out of our mouth is not only carbon dioxide, it has a lot of oxygen also. In this case, that breath is of the Logos. Yeah.
Shika, so are you saying that the substance of colon is different from Anu?
From?
Anu.
No, it is Anu. It is also called Anu. Yes. Yeah.
So the substance.
The ultimate root, the substance in Sanskrit is called Anu. But I didn't want to use that word. Maybe not many people have heard of that, because Anu in Hindi. That's why I thought it will create confusion. Anu in Hindi or Sanskrit means molecule. So people will confuse it with our chemical elements, molecule or thing. But Anu is also the name of Brahma. Yes. So, but let us not, at this point, we keep ourselves in a limited, because there are so many words we will find in studying, and this meaning that, that meaning this. And it's good when we correlate like this. What is the correlation of one with each other? So that koilon is the ultimate root matter, Anu, but that is not with what our universe is made. It is the absence of it. So when, after pralaya or obscuration, the universe has to come into existence, the first cause. And what is the first cause? The first Logos here. The first cause, Brahman. Eternal, shines forth by his own will. And these are all symbolical statements. He himself says we don't know what it means that he shines forth and what he does. But in the last line he said, thus have the sages taught us, and thus we in humility repeat. At least to have an idea about it, and then we can contemplate on it further. So when the universe is to come into existence, the eternal shines forth by his own will. So it comes to the first Logos, and then, okay, this I think we can, I just wanted to share the sequence of events. That first is the absolute, then the first cause, the first manifestation which we just heard, and then which is also called first Logos. It is unmanifested. Then from that comes the second Logos. One differentiation happens. From absolute it becomes spirit or matter, plus or minus, Purush or Prakriti. Second Logos. And then comes the third Logos, cosmic ideation. And then from that Trinity comes several spiritual intelligences, which we call Buddhas, Dhyani Chauhans, Bodhisattvas, and all those supreme intelligences. But very important thing to know, and what makes Theosophy different from any other religion in that sense, that all these beings, what we are talking about, first Logos, second Logos, third Logos, have passed through human evolution. They have not come from some extraterrestrial that the religion would tell us that there is a deity who is just sitting there to judge us. Now connect it with the first great truth, that soul of man is immortal and it has no limit of expansion and growth. So all these deities which now we are seeing in that level, all of them have passed through human stage of evolution. And by their efforts, they have reached that office, which we can call, and they have a duty to perform. So that is the difference what Theosophy says. And when these spiritual intelligences, then Dhyani Chauhans, archangels, different religions call them by different names, then the creation in that sense happens. Okay. And Our universe is only one of the infinite number of universes, all of them sons of necessity because links in great cosmic chain of universes. This also gives an idea that law of karma is not only applicable to individual, the law of karma is actually applying at the cosmic level also. Each one is standing in relation of an effect as regards its predecessor and being a cause as regards its successor. So all the unresolved causes that were there at the time the universe went into pralaya. Everybody understands the word pralaya? Okay. Pralaya means dissolution. Like one thing is to come into existence, manifestation, and that is called manvantara in secret doctrine terms. And when it dissolves, it's called pralaya. Everything is in harmonized, no activity is happening. So when it goes in pralaya or dissolution and still some causes were left unresolved, those causes will become the cause of the next universe to take birth, and then those causes will bring their effects, just like it happens at our level. So microcosm, macrocosm. Now we come, so when it's time for manifestation, so already he said, imagine a whole space full of this koilon, koilon, right? In the space. And then some great being, not the deity of our solar system, but infinitely higher than that, changed this condition of rest by pouring out his spirit or force into a certain section of this matter, which we call our universe. That's what in Bhagavad Gita Krishna says, that from a part of me I create the universe and I still remain same, or a lot of explanation. So that being is a very high spiritual intelligence, so basically the logos, the cosmic logos, at like a vice chancellor of a university, and then we come to high school, then we come to primary, like that. So cosmos, then galaxy, then solar system, and then the planet. So what this being does is pour out its spirit, and the effect of the introduction of this force is that of blowing of a mighty breath. It has formed within this ether incalculable number of tiny spherical bubbles. The bubbles that we just talked about, when we are underwater and we exhale, the air bubble forms. And what is the quality of this? How is this different from another bubbles? From a soap bubble? Soap bubble has a layer of water between itself and the outside air. It's separating it, right? But the air bubble inside, it has no outer layer. It is only air, and then the water, surrounding water forms its outside layer. So it's only that, there is no outside layer, it's only the air bubble. So in this case, these bubbles are formed in koilon. And how do they look? I will show you first. I mean, this is what in occult chemistry they have shown the picture. We can, for us to imagine that if this is the koilon, all these white spots are the bubbles in koilon, right? And these bubbles are the units, all alike, spherical, simple in construction. They are the basis of all matter. I know it's very different and paradoxical from whatever we have studied till now. They are not themselves matter, they are not blocks but bubbles. They do, okay, I think we can skip a lot of that. can see that these units are not koilon but absence of koilon. The only spots where is it not. And nothingness floating in it, so to speak. That is the startling and incredible fact that matter is nothingness, and the space obtained by pressing back an infinitely dense substance. The koilon, the infinitely dense substance, and the breath of the logos is putting his breath and pushing it out, right? And pushing it out, making a bubble in that matter. That's why, and that's a very famous and popular statement in secret doctrine, which now we can understand in this context, that Foher digs holes in space. So what is digging the hole in space? That is the space which is full of matter, koilon, ultimate matter. The breath of logos through Foher is digging holes, digging bubbles in that space. And the holes are the airy nothingnesses, the bubbles of which solid universes are built. I mean, how paradoxical, how more paradoxical can it get? What are they then, these bubbles, or rather, what is their content? The force which can blow bubbles in a substance of infinite density. The ancients called that force the breath. The graphic symbol. I mean, let's not start imagining that the deity is, literally breathing, but it's the outpouring on which we will come of the life in the matter, which seems to imply that who used it had seen the cosmic process, had seen the logos when he breathed into the waters of space. Oh, very good showing. I think that is, you see some of the similarities in all the religions, whether you study Bible, whether you study Puranas, or maybe Quran also, they all start with that there was nothing, just waters. A flood was there. And so basically it was kind of a symbol of these waters of space in which the life is poured out and made the bubbles which build universes. Scientists may call this force by what names they will, but for Theosophists it is the breath of logos. So now we know that these are the bubbles, so we can quickly move to our next stage. Sorry?
I'm still trying to understand.
Yeah.
If matter is the absence of koilon,
Yeah.
and koilon is the basic unit.
Yeah.
How does that reconcile
No.
the idea that
No, koilon is not the basic unit.
Koilon is a space.
Koilon is a space.
yes, the matter is the absence of koilon?
Yes,
Isn't
absolutely.
there a duality there? So I'm trying to, how does that reconcile the idea that everything comes out from the all?
From nothingness. And we will come to it. When you see how these things are working, we will come to it. That is why it is called illusion. I mean, it's not just called illusion.
Yeah.
Yes.
This is really quick. So the colon is space, and the substance of the colon is bubbles. And then when the solar logos or whatever logos, they put a press into the colon, which is the space, it removes the bubbles out of the colon.
No.
So
Bubbles are produced by the solar logos.
okay, so
Yes.
the bubbles in colons is actually the breath of God that you show.
Yes.
So the colon itself, what is the substance of the colon?
That is called ether of the space by the scientist, and it is also called the mother substance or Mool Prakriti. In esoteric sense, the word is called Mool Prakriti, root matter. And that is exactly, I can totally understand your, and that is the whole purpose, to have something that which we are not able to perceive or even imagine, that will hit our mind to think deeper in that. And when we stay with that confusion, contemplate on it, then the realization will come from within. Because right now, I know it is very, very complex and paradoxical from what we have studied till now, but now we are studying it from the occult side of the nature. And it may create confusion, but confusion is good. It means we are thinking and we are working on our understanding. And when we go further, you will see really it's not actually nothing is matter, everything is energy. We'll see how. So basically this is from absolute, it comes to unmanifested, it comes to manifested. So now our universe is marked, right? This is when the universe has to come into being, the logos, I mean it has, why it is moving automatic, I think. So our universe has come into being, and this whole area, as C.W. later said, a section of the whole space has been marked where this universe will be having all the play and everything. So that is called in Annie Besant's and Leadbeater's terms Adi plane. And from that infinite that happened at universal level, coming to super galaxy, then coming to solar system. So our solar logos also, I mean cosmic deity, cosmos, it happened at higher level, the bubbles are formed and then coming down and down and down and down, coming to solar system. And imagine this is not yet happening at the physical plane. I mean physical is not even existing at this point. We are only talking about the very, 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 very subtle plane of consciousness which will come. So in each galaxy there are 70 to 280 billions of solar systems. So imagine out of that, on our solar system, our solar logos, when the solar deity begins to make his system, that is our solar system, he finds ready to his hand this material. Right? Up till now it's okay? That this infinite mass of tiny bubbles in Koilon, which can be built up into various kinds of matter as we know it. And he commences by defining the limit of his field of activity. So it's not like a scientist would say that solar system is just expanding and it will go on expanding. It's not like that as per occult science. A vast sphere whose circumference is far larger than the orbit of the outermost of the future planets. That is the circumference or the field of activity that solar logos chooses or makes for his solar system or her solar system.
Them.
Or them. Or them solar system or its solar system. Okay. And what it does, within the limit of that sphere, it sets up a gigantic vortex, a motion which sweeps together all the bubbles into a vast central mass, and the material of nebula that is to be. So we see all what is happening is with an intelligence working behind it. There is not coincidental or accidental coming together of the atoms. So this is imagine our limit of our solar system, right? The site marked out. Now when this is marked out, we see there are three logos, first, second and third. So the third logos starts working. And how it starts working, which is also called Holy Spirit in Christianity and Brahma in Hindu religion. It starts working by there are three logos, right? The third logos, the second logos, and the first logos. So, you might have heard about three outpourings in theosophical literature. Outpourings means divine outpourings. So the third logos of Brahma, what it does, it sends out its impulses 6 times, 7 times, and then it forms 7 orders of matter, which is called the material evolution, and which we see becomes the planes of consciousness. 7 planes of consciousness. When the planes are ready, who is next to come?
Life.
The forms, the life. Second logos, the son or the daughter. Vishnu in the Hindu religion. Second outpouring happens several times. It forms 7 kingdoms of nature or life, which is called biological evolution. And we'll come to it, all of them. What are those? And when some life form, after passing through mineral, plant, and animal, is ready to become a human, that is the individualization, then and then only the third outpouring from Shiva, or the father or the mother, comes down and the individualization happens, and they forms the 7 types of human temperament. So all humanity can be classified into 7 types. So that depends on from which ray the animal has individualized into human being. So that is called the spiritual evolution. So we see 3 streams of evolution are going on parallelly. Material evolution, biological evolution, and spiritual evolution. The same thing is shown in the next slide. The third logos, this is the symbol for the third logos in secret doctrine. So it comes down, it forms this. I'll tell you how it forms. The first plane is Buddhic plane, manas, astral, and physical. Then comes the second logos. It starts combining the atoms into forms. So then comes first elemental kingdom, second, third, mineral, vegetable, animal, and then when individualization is happening, the first logos sends down its ray. And beyond human is superhuman kingdom, which means all the masters or the ascended masters and who have been enlightened beings, they are beyond the human evolution. This is another way of showing it. I mean, something in color. This is the first outpouring, making the matter. The second outpouring, making the forms. The third outpouring, individualization, making of the causal body. I am just using these terms assuming that most of us know these terms, because otherwise we'll spend too much time. If anybody has doubt in any word, please, we can discuss later. So you see the individualization happens here at the mental level. The causal body is formed, and we'll see in a while in detail. Okay. So now, in all these images, okay, how these things happen? I mean, how does the different matters form? The breath of the logos is the force that fills the space that we already know. So the first life wave means the first impulse of the first life wave that is coming from the third logos catches up these bubbles and whirls them into various arrangements which we call the atoms of several planes, and aggregates them into molecules, and on the physical plane later into chemical elements. So the worlds are built out of these voids, these emptiness which seem to us nothing but our divine force. Now, can we correlate this with that basic idea that we studied yesterday, that nothing is dead matter? Or there is a famous saying in, I don't know if maybe in Christianity also it exists. In Islam it says, Sab mein Allah Noor Samaya, means the light of Allah is in every particle. In Hinduism it says, Kan Kan mein Bhagavan, means every particle has that divinity. Anybody knows anything similar statement in Christianity? Must be. I mean, there has to be somewhere in the Bible that we need to find. So it means this is the reason of that. That the chemical element which we are, or things we are seeing now, all of them are formed from those ultimate root matter or anu, the bubbles, which has the breath of the logos. So this cannot exist here without the essence. So everything has its essence. And how were the true HPB's statement in secret doctrine? Matter is nothing but an aggregation of atomic forces. And Buddha also taught us the same. Okay. So the first impulse that comes, what it does, it takes all these bubbles and make them a vortices, and each of which draws into itself 49 bubbles, right? Like it's a full of bubbles. So this life wave that is coming, it forms 49, takes 49, group of 49 and make them one unit. Is it easy to understand? Like there are thousands of bubbles, a force is coming which is making out of those 1,000 bubbles a group of 49, 49, 49, 49. Right? Why 49? We will come to that. And arranges them in a certain shape. And these little groupings of bubbles so formed are the atoms of the second plane, like this. So, okay. Initially there was one Adi plane full of bubbles, right? When this force came of the Logos, I know it's very heavy, we definitely need tea after this. So this is the original Adi plane. So when this force came, the solar Logos impulse came, what it did, leaving aside some of the bubbles in original form, the remaining bubbles it combined into 49 bubbles per atom. So how does this plane would be in comparison to this?
More dense.
Denser, exactly. Because this is only one bubble per atom, right? But the next is 49 bubbles per atom. So this has become denser than that, right? And the same procedure keeps happening. Then from this, the next impulse collects 2401 bubbles per atom and make the atom of that we know as atomic plane. These are all multiples of 7, by the way. 7 times 7, 49, and then yes. So that's what they found out in their research, in their clairvoyant research. So that's how. And like that, we come to Buddhic plane, we come to mental plane, we come to astral plane, and then we come to physical plane. And what we sense and see all around us is only this part, not even full part, because this full physical plane is till wherever the Hubble telescope can see. But that is still within this physical. That is not beyond the physical because it can be seen by our senses. So out of that vast space, what we can only see is our little earth. I mean, even little earth we cannot see fully, we can travel here and there. So imagine this 14 million or, okay, 14 million?
Million.
Sorry, how much?
Billion.
Okay, what? Bubbles per atom. And this is not even the chemical atoms that we are talking about. These are the further combinations of these will make what scientists call hydrogen, nitrogen, or iron, or different chemical elements. But all of this has come from where? From here. And that is why you see there is no dead matter and 7 concentric interpenetrating spheres of differing densities. So heaven or God is not somewhere above, right? The astral plane, mental plane is not somewhere outside. It is right now still very much here interpenetrating with us, but we cannot feel it because we have not developed our consciousness yet. Right now, and that's what I think can be termed as parallel universes. Because this is the physical plane. Parallel to physical is also astral world going on with its activities. Parallel to that is going on mental activities. But we cannot perceive them. Okay, this is no, I'm just speculating. It to be maybe what they mean by parallel universe can be understood in this way. And so this is how we have the solar system, I mean the planets are made, and then the solar system that we see now, or 7 planes of consciousness, are formed. And what we just discussed is the guiding intelligence as per occultism, and this is coincidental aggregation of atoms as per modern science. But due to time, we'll skip it. And so, what we saw, the million bubbles or whatever per atom, is actually this. Yesterday, you remember we discussed 7 states of matter? So actually what that atom is, this one, not even this, solid, liquid, gas, or plasma, even this, the subtlest part of the physical plane. And that is called the ultimate physical atom. In that also there are difference, male and female. There is the force going in or coming out difference that separates them. So, but this is the fundamental ultimate physical atom out of which all the other elements are made, will be made, and they are still being made. Because when this book was written, uranium was the heaviest element available. But now there is, I passed that slide, but there is some nihonium and
Micronium.
yeah. So it means the new elements are still forming. So it means Brahma has not stopped working yet. So it means it is constantly going on and on. It means the evolution is not yet ended. So similarly, not the matter evolution, same applies to biological evolution. As you study, this difference of male and female will be no more in the coming times. The gender will be removed. Everybody will become hermaphrodite. And our pituitary and pineal glands are still to evolve, which will give us 2 more senses in addition to the 5 senses that we have now. So a lot of evolution is remaining, and this is the ultimate atom. Okay, in this ultimate atom, I will pass quickly. Now I am coming to Gerald. How are these ultimate atoms made of, right? You were raising that question, no?
Yeah.
That energy.
Matter is the absence of koinon.
So this is the atom, right? This is the atom. Inside there is nothing. It's the absence of koilon in this. And all these walls that we are seeing are basically energy. So you will see in a while. Those walls that we saw around the ultimate physical atoms are basically these strings of energy. And has anyone heard about the string theory or superstring theory that is scientists are currently working on? In physics, string theory is the theoretical point-like particles of particle physics are replaced by one-dimensional objects called strings. String theory describes how these strings propagate through space and interact with each other. And superstring theory is an attempt to explain of all the particles. So this is really that string that the scientists are also aiming for, and there is no solid matter. These strings also, okay, just to explain again. You see, if this is the ultimate physical atom of physical plane, this is still made up of some finer strings, right? And this is the physical plane string, right? This part, if we magnify and see, the astral plane ultimate atom will be made of finer strings, that will be made of the mental plane strings, that will be made, like going on and on. So actually, ultimately, everything is made up of those bubbles, becoming more and more and more and more complex in that sense. And these are called spirales or 10 rings. They are like pearls threaded on an invisible strings, what we just saw. And this is something important. If you count these, there are 10 strings. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And it's not like coincidence or something. The atoms consist of 10 wires or strings which divide themselves naturally in two groups, 7 and 3. 7 thicker ones and 3 finer ones. They are same in constitution, but what he's saying, and they each respond to different vibrations. Here. They appear to identical, but they respond most readily to its own special set of vibrations. And by actual counting, it was discovered that the number of, okay, this we can skip. The ordinary sevenfold rule works quite accurately with the thinner coils, but there is a very curious variation with regards to set of 3, these 3. So this is the atom, these are the 7 and 3. You remember we discussed that there is divine trinity, the first, second, third logos. After that comes the spiritual intelligences, of which are 7. The 7 archangels or Sapt Rishis or 7 angels in Islam, so which are also called, by the way, planetary logos. In our solar system, each planet, like Earth, is a being, is an organism. So there is an intelligence which is in charge or residing in that planet, just like this spirit is occupying this body, right? So similarly, the planet Jupiter has a spirit which is, is in charge of that. So these are those 7, and you see their connections with that ultimate atom of our plane with this 7, and the trinity, first, second, third logos, are connected with the 3 bigger thrills. Now, at so much deep level, there is connection of, we cannot even imagine, and maybe I think this can be the basis also of astrology. I mean, how the planets affect our life. Although ultimately everything is governed by karma, because they do not have any preferences. They will come in our lifetime based on our karma, but their effect constantly can be experienced, and by our inner force can be modified or used for our betterment. So this is that. This is very important. These 7 spirals that we talked about, each of them gets activated in every round. Round, everybody familiar with? Chains, rounds, okay. Okay. I'm just using the word, basically a cycle of evolution. So in every round, the next additional spiral gets activated. But their activity in an individual may be prematurely forced by yoga practice. Not just the physical exercises they are talking. The yoga exercise means the meditation.
Bhakti yoga, Sankhya yoga,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, basically purifying all our mind or removing our ego and yama, niyama, asana, pranayam, pratyahar, dharana, like Noble Eightfold Path of Buddha, Patanjali Ashtanga Yoga. So those who want to activate them prematurely can do so by doing the spiritual practice. Otherwise, we'll just, at some point of time, we will reach there. So if nobody is in a hurry, we can be relaxed. But that's what Theosophy we study, that the path of Theosophy is also for those who are the front runners of the next humanity. So if anybody is interested and if anybody seems serious enough to, let's do that. And I think all of us are trying to do that. Prematurely may not be the correct, from the prematurely in the sense that we are not mature enough, but prematurely in the sense before it is supposed to get activated by our effort. We activate it, and then we become a helper in the divine plan, like at the feet of the Master says, that we become a pen in the divine plan's hand so that we can help others, not because, oh yes, my work is done, I am going to sleep now in Nirvana. So not because of that, but the reason should be the motive. Right motive is, if I can do it for me, I am uplifting collective human consciousness, not just myself. Oh my God, 1 minute. Okay, quickly, just I will go through this. The 7 planes now we know. You see, in most of the books you will see the lines like this. So we get an idea that the planes are like kept on top of each other, right? But that's why I shared with you the spherical view so that we can imagine that it's not like this. So at every plane, the consciousness is expressing itself in different. Why is it expressing in different form? Can anybody tell? Like on Atmic level, it is expressing as one life, peace, will, Buddhic this. Why is it different? Okay, you have a light, right? Ray of light. When you pass it in water, does its speeds remain the same?
Slows and revert.
Refract, but it slows. When you pass the light in vacuum, it has its own qualities. When you pass the light through an opaque thing, what happens? It stops.
Shadow.
Right? It means the medium changes the quality. So every medium is different, right? Each medium is denser than the higher one. So when the divine consciousness is passing through that medium, it is reflecting or expressing itself in a different form. And those different forms are physical, pranic, desire, concrete, abstract, and all those things. The same animations, 7 planes that we have studied. Same HPP also has given planes, and also the reason that why Animation added Anupadaka and Adi, because HPP once mentioned in her literature of Anupadaka element, the 6th element, and Adi element. So that Adi Tattva corresponds to the first logos, Anupadaka to the second, and Akasha to the third logos. So based on that study, research, maybe that was her addition or modification. I think let's stop. 5 to 10 minutes remaining that we can cover in the next session. and then we'll go to human constitution. I have confused you enough for this morning, but confusion is good. It means our minds are working. Thank you for patient hearing, because this was a very, very complex thing and dry thing to study. Huh? Bouncer, okay.